aware, only this. And that's another word that people are always asking about love. That's all. Love is light. What light is, life is all about love. Well, love is light. Light is love. Life is love. Love is life. Everything is that life. And it's self-shining. So that light shines of itself, like the sun is ever fresh and self-shining. And the warmth of the radiation of the sun warms the earth and everything on it. Cool it also. And that love of being radiates, expresses through each and every one of you. Is what you really are, what you actually are. But thought has come into it. Thought has come into it, and we take the word or the thought to be real. But even as I say, it's expressed in many words. They can call it God, they can call it life, call it love, call it being, call it bliss. All different labels pointing to the same thing. And you and I and everything, as I say all the time, is all that. That is all there is. That radiance, that light, that love. And there's a light, no darkness. You realise it can't no darkness. But the thing that's seemingly obscured we call mind or thought. And we try to find the answer in the mind. And we look in the mind. But do you look in the darkness for the light? You won't find it there till the light is recognised that it is your natural state. And that's what they tell you in the scriptures. Let your light so shine before men that they may see the good works and glorify the Father, which is the light of being. Glorify your Father which is in heaven. Yeah. You get some of these scriptural statements take on a different meaning instead of the old thing we've labelled them with and believed in when you look into them. And Christ says, I am the light of the world. He wasn't talking about himself, he's talking about that sense of presence. The light of beingness, the light of life. And light, another name for light, is energy. You've got electricity in the room there with all sorts of different lights in the room, and each light, there's probably different globes of different strengths in it. But it's all that one energy coming from the one generator that's expressing through everything. So that's another term for it, light, energy. That's why I don't use the term God, I use the term intelligence energy. That light, that radiance is intelligence, pure intelligence, not your intellects. The intelligence is able to pattern, express and form and shape all this manifestation. And all the manifestation is appearance only. And it's all appearing in that light. Can it appear in the darkness? It can't. Darkness obscures. And what have we taken on? We've taken on the darkness of belief. Believing in the word, the concept. But you know that the light, you know, there is energy in that pattern you call you. It's suffused with energy. And that energy is intelligence. It's energy or light or life that's breathing it. That's beating your heart. It's growing your hair and your fingernails, digesting your food. It's expressing through this pattern we call our body. It can be like treat that like a globe. Only a certain amount of body's in it. Rampage, whatever you like to call it. Too much and you'll blow it out. Not enough and you feel weak and miserable. And what's stopping it from shifting? There's a blockage somewhere. A blockage in the beliefs we've taken on. We've taken on the concepts or words. And let's stop blocking it. Light is energy, vibration. And isn't your breath a vibration? Isn't your heart beating a vibration? Growing, digesting food, it's all that vibrating intelligence energy. And we talk about intellect. We take the words we've learned and thinking, use it as intellect instead of seeing the natural, innate intelligence of it all. Intelligence is not the intellect. You and I have different intellects. Some of you have got better intellects than I have, and some not so good. And so there can be a seeming difference in it. The same light of intelligence or knowing is suffusing us from the smallest, minutest particle to the greatest galaxy or sky or whatever, furthest part of the manifestation of the universe. And it's shining through it all. That self-shining, ever-fresh presence awareness. Or, as they put, another way they put it in Buddhism, non-conceptual, ever-fresh presence awareness. Without any concepts, it shines in its fullness. And without any concepts, they call it no mind, pure mind. Not that the mind has disappeared, but that what you call is pure. It's no mind. It's not something. It's the innate intelligence, the awareness in which everything appears, patterns, expresses, and so on. Shining through the mind. And shines into different pattern shapes and forms, words, labels, concepts, images. Everything is that. And what do we do when we believe that we are this person, this separate entity? We have seemingly separated ourselves from the not inseparable, divided ourselves from the indivisible. That's what they call it in all the scriptures. It's indivisible, it's inseparable, it's one without a second, it's non-dual. And then we get locked into the arguments of duality and non-duality and all these other things, not realising what it's pointing to. It's all the one essence that's never changed. And it's no thing whatsoever. All this manifestation is made up of things. Patterns, shapes and forms are things. But no thing appearing or vibrating. Like a wave is a vibration on the ocean. Is it anything ever other than the ocean or water? Is it ever separate from the ocean or the water? If the ocean is made up of water, and water is the wave and the ocean, can it separate itself? Can you separate water from water? You can't. It's still only the water. So everything is that. And that includes you, me, and everything else. And that's what we need to recognise. It's a cognising emptiness, they call it. Have a look. You'll see it in all these different scriptures and different things. It's all there. But we put it on different meanings, different takes, and lose sight of it. And we think we are, because we're knowing, we think we're cognising. That's another name of knowing, is cognising. And we think we are cognising the emptiness. They don't mean that. What they mean when they say a cognising emptiness, it's the emptiness itself. When I say they, the saints, sages, saviours and seers are the ones that have understood this and pointed it out in these traditions and scriptures. What they were pointing to was the truth, because they knew the truth and were free of the belief in seeing separate. They pointed out, have a listen to what they're saying and recognise what they're saying. And still saying to this day in different pattern shapes and forms. They call it a cognising, not that we don't cognise it, we're cognising emptiness, but the emptiness itself, that intelligence energy, has the capacity of knowing or cognising. The innate intelligence energy, a vibrating pattern of knowing and cognising. And they made the statement then, the Buddha made the statement then, that emptiness is form. You and I are patterns, shapes and forms. So all we are is that emptiness, appearing as different. And look at these patterns, shapes and forms. They are the lights, that light of life is expressing through each and every pattern. Light's expressing through the stars, the moon and everything else. And that emptiness is form, and the form can be nothing other than the emptiness. And those forms are like the bowls, got different wattages, different powers in them. And through that shining light, it can express in thoughts, feelings, emotions. And look at the form it's expressing through, the body. That body made up of amazing intelligence energy. It's got the eyes, the ears, the heart, the lungs, the throat, the voice box, kidneys, liver, all these organs. The life diffusing through it, brain, is enabling it to express in all these different word shapes and forms. Without that life, without that light of life in it, what is it? It's a corpse. Expresses as words, the energy, and light itself is energy. So what's the intelligence energy, the activity of knowing? Still the light of love, of being, knowing, loving to be. Anyone doesn't love to be? Of course you love to be. Well, you're using that word love, and then you say you don't know what it means. You take it to be a personal love, or a male-female connection. Of course, all these are coming together, everything, and recognising of everything is that oneness, is natural, spontaneous lovingness there, isn't it? But we don't recognise it. We take the other to be, everything else to be other than what I am. It appears, the pattern, shape and forms appears different from what I am. But do you think the life essence is any different? Life essence can't be any, and that's all it is, an essence. And I call an essence, it's like you've got the scent of lavender, for instance, the flower. That's the essence of the flower, the scent, or the smell, or the beauty that comes through it. And it's the essence that's expressing through these patterns as you, me, and everything else. It's not recognised because we've taken on the belief that we are the persona, coming from the Latin word persona, the mask. We're using words, we've learnt words. In that intricate pattern we call the body, mind, with the brain and everything, we're able to express it in sounds. Sounds being vibration, and vibration forms into words. And this primary sound of this so-called universe, what is it? One sound comes up as, they say it's Om, I am. Translated, you can try and answer that Om into I am. And we take on the word I am, but instead of translating it as the absolute, we've translated it as this person, this separate entity, this individual. I, or me, has become I am. And they tell you again, the saints say, as I am that. I am that absolute. There is only that. Innately we know that because we say, that's the chair, that's the table, that's the flower, that's the tree. That is everything. What do we put words on? Now have a look. When did you begin? You'll say, I began at birth, but can you remember your birth? And you realize, no. When you look into it, you say you really can't remember your birth. You can form some conceptual idea when you think it was, or when you're living, you might have some seeming experience like it, but you can't go back and relive that moment of birth, and you can't say what it was because you had no words. What could you say about it without the word? What can you say about anything without the word? So we've learnt words, acquired words, picked up words, and every word you've ever spoken or picked up has been learnt. There is no word that you've we're born with. Every word has been acquired or picked up. And look into the word, investigate and have a look and see the word. Is the word the actual? We'll take the word water. Can you drink that word? Can you swim in that word? Can you wash in it? Can you drown in it? You can't. Does the word fire, does it burn your mouth? Can you cook with it? Can you heat yourself with it? You can't. So may this word I or me, when you look at it, is not what it appears to be. We've taken it to be this substantial entity, this person, this separate entity, this individual, this person, all words we put on it. Am I the word? I say I am is the word, but is I am what I am? Or is I am that sense of presence? That's why Moses realised that on the mountain when he said, I am that I am. Not the word, not the concept, but what it represents. And the Sagata tells us, stay with the I amness. And people think that is what I am. Stay with that word. They repeat it as a mantra, but it's not that at all. The I amness is the sense of presence. That sense of presence is with you right now. How would you express it? If somebody asks you who you are, you'll say, I am. And then you put on so-and-so, Bob, Bill, Harry, or whatever. Instead of saying what you actually are, I am the absolute. I am the totality. I am the great perfection. Or whatever. I am God. As it says in Isaiah, be still and know that I am God. God just gave me there. That sense of presence is the godliness. God is just another label or a word. In the beginning was the Word. That's what it tells you in the Bible. The Word was with God, the Word was God. That's all God is the Word. All things were made by Him, and isn't that a fact? Everything you see, all the things you see out there, you put labels on, words. There's nothing made without nothing made that was made without the Word. So you see, all this thing, Word was a God, and God, a label we put on that infinite, absolute, intelligence, energy, which are all words that are not it, presence, awareness, put words on trying to describe the wordless indescribable. Try and negate it. Take that I am away and say, I am not. Do you disappear? Is it the end of you? That's not. So you still are without the word. And if you pause the thought and ask yourself, what is wrong with right now, if I don't think about it, to try and get beyond that word without a thought, there will be a thought if you go out and leave it behind. Without that word, without the thought, do you fall apart? Do you stop breathing? Heart stop beating? Does your hair and fingernails stop? Is it the end of you? It's not. And you're glad to give up the word every night when you go to sleep. If you were the word, you'd be frightened to lose sight of it. You'd be awake all night hanging on to it. But you don't. You give it up gladly. We're glad to get rid of it. Yet it comes back in the morning again, seemingly fresh and new. And we latch onto it again with all the other concepts we've added to it. All the sensations, all the feelings, and all the beliefs and conceptual images. We load it down instead of pure sense of presence, and it's become a personal I am. The I am belonging to this mask, persona, the mask, this conceptual image that I've taken to believe to be me without investigating it. Instead of seeing myself as the absolute, the one reality, I've now become to a small, minute human being. And how many times we put that label on ourselves and something's happened to us and you said, well, and you couldn't do anything, and you say, well, after all, I'm only human. Put the limitations and boundaries on ourselves. We're bound the infinite, the absolute, into a cage of conceptual images. Like the caterpillar that's built a cocoon around itself, we've built a cocoon of words around ourselves and locked ourselves into it. Now that butterfly will rest, that caterpillar will rest in that cocoon for a while, but the little chrysalis is going, is what do they call it? Growing inside it, metamorphosing or whatever the word is, I don't know. But it's growing and growing and it'll bust out of that cocoon. And when it busts out, it's not no longer the ugly grub it was, it's become a beautiful butterfly, with all different patterns and colours on it. And it's flying free of the cocoon. It's no longer the lowly grub who's living on meat. It's flying around everywhere. And the same here, when you are free of the belief that you are the separate entity. Know the truth, and the truth will set you free. In that freedom is the joy, is the happiness, is the sense of well-being, not being well. And there's the lightness in it. The energy, shine, the self-shining, ever-fresh presence awareness, the light of energy shines through it and shines out of your eyes. Light needs an aperture to shine out of it. It's covered over everywhere. Where's it going to shine out of? Only cracks in the covering. Well, where does it shine out of in these human forms? Does it shine out through your eyes? How could you see if the light was in your eye? And people have said it in poems and things and recognise the love light in your eyes. It's the light of life, the light of life. And where does that light come into that pattern of body? Doesn't it come into the umbilical cord through your mother when that little fetus is growing in your body in your mother's womb? Where's the food coming into it? Through the umbilical cord, into your belly button or the umbilical cord there, into that chakra, that life chakra there. And that's when the light comes in. And that light of life comes into it. And when you're born, it comes out, they cut that cord and the light continues to shine out through your life. And then it comes in through the breath and the food you eat, the light of life. And you are that light. And like Christ, you'll say, I am the light of the world. Because the world appears in that light. If that light wasn't there or life wasn't there, what would you know of the world or anything in it? What would you know of yourself or anything in it? Nothing whatsoever. So, and we ignore it. We ignore it. We take ourselves to be the persona, the one who has this intelligence. Instead of being the intelligence energy is what the livingness is, we've taken ourselves to be intelligence and that life. Twisted it around, and we've taken ourselves to be this persona, this mask, turned it around. So instead of being the absolute, we're down to a minimal little creature. And the creature needs a creator or a creation to form in. They're already there with the light of life and love and joy. All pattern, shapes and forms, all a phenomenal manifestation. The definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. It's all appearance and it's all spontaneous. Time is a mental concept. Time is duration. What duration in this present moment? How long does it last? It's spontaneous. As it's beginning, it's ending. It appears to have duration when we fix the concepts on it, the boundaries on it. Take the boundaries off and see that pattern and shape and form that you are is transient. It is changing right now. You haven't got the same body you walked into the room with and turned on your Zoom with. There are thousands of cells, not one or two. If it was one or two, it might be hard to find out, but there are thousands of cells dying in your body right now when they've looked into it and they've seen it. It's constantly transient, it's constantly changing. And each cell is suffused with that light of intelligence, of knowing, and it knows what to do. A heart cell is not going to become a skin cell or a liver cell. A liver cell is not going to become a brain cell. Each cell is replaced by that same intelligence energy that formed the cell that died, that broke down before it, with a fresh and new one, spontaneously ever fresh and new. And this body is changing, constantly changing. I wish the cells in my knee had changed. They are. They're wearing out and falling away. They may be replaced, they may not be. But whatever life does is what life does. Put the proper energy into it, the proper food and air and things like that might bring about a change, which I'm trying to do. But life, as we know it, has a beginning and an end. But they say this manifestation is appearing. We say it has a beginning and an end. And we say the beginning was a big bang. Who was there to say there was a big bang? Any one of you there can say it was a big bang, or anyone you know of? No, it's began billions of so-called light years away. It hasn't. So it's beginning ever fresh and ever new. And the pattern is just constantly changing. It couldn't be the same pattern because it would be there. It's got to change, so it's got to seemingly age. It's not the same pattern you had when you began to form, when that pattern which was the sperm and joined with the ovum and doubled and redoubled. And that sperm and ovum, the pattern that housed the intelligence entity, that's gone and gone into the energy that's in this pattern right now. And all this is changing constantly. All transient, all spontaneous, no lasting. But while we believe we are this separate entity, this individual, it brings about all the fear, the suffering, the anguish, the stress, the guilt, the shame and remorse, jealousy, envy. All our psychological suffering comes about because of that belief in the separation. If you're not relating it to a separate entity and see it all as one, no belief going into it, it's going to express in its fullness. But the belief, with energy of belief going into the idea of belief, is stopping it from changing, stopping it from growing in the mind, so-called mind. But is there such a thing as mind? Have a look and see. You say my mind, all right. You think there's a mind there? Show me your mind. Can you grasp a thing there called mind? I've tried for many years and couldn't. And I still can't. And I know today there is no such thing as what we call mind. There is such a thing as thoughts. And thought is not what it appears to be. It's a vibration. And the vibrations into concepts, ideas and images we call mind. So there's no mind, there's no thought either. They're just words. Thoughts just words. Words are vibration. Vibration, they come out as sound. Sound's a vibration. A vibration is a movement of energy. So the words are sound, energy, vibration. Thoughts are a subtle vibration. They're a subtler form of thought. And from that subtler thought of thought comes up sensations or feelings. Thoughts come about, feelings come about next after the thought. Sensations in the body, bodily sensations. Sensations in the so-called mind, in the thinking. The sensations become feelings. And the words go on the feelings like anger, guilt, shame, remorse, fear. They're all labels we put on the feelings, sensations. Instead of seeing an ever-fresh new sensation, we got the belief that this was few years ago when we learnt words, the parents told us, or anger, and that sensation comes up today. Instead of realising it's long since changed, it's gone, it's dead, we relate it to the old feeling. Oh, this one's fear that happened to me when I was a child, and blah, blah, blah. So we take it on board and get lost in the dead image. The image is dead. The imaging that's going on now is fresh in you, and it's spontaneous. It only lasts, we can't even say a moment because that's time. It's spontaneous, it's ever changing, it's ever fresh, that's what they tell you, ever changing. Yeah. Like the ocean is ever changing, yet it's never changing. It's ever changing with waves, ripples and tides and coming in and out, but it's never changing as the ocean. It's still water. So we've taken on all these concepts and locked into the concepts. And so we've separated ourselves standing as a separate entity, an individual, a person, a mask, a conceptual image. This persona is the mask, I am this person, Bob, the Australian, the good fellow, or the unhappy fellow, or the sad fellow, the fellow's health is not so good, or getting old. All these concepts are put on it and taken to be believed. A conceptual image is added to the livingness, and it's blocking the images from being there in its fullness. The livingness is ever fresh and ever free in its fullness, not blocked by the images. It'll be totally different. Yeah. Be unconcerned about what is going on. Let that float free of the concernness, of the worriness, the concern of unhappiness. See what happens. See where it brings you. See what it does to you. See that light that's shining in you will shine out of your eyes and change your expression, change your health. Instead of living from a dead image, trying to keep up with the past, which can't happen because there's no such thing as time, and the dead can't keep up with the past. It's spontaneous. It only lasts a moment. We're relating to the old dead image. And that's not life. And they say, one of the things in the Buddha will tell you, be utterly awake. With the 5 senses wide open. You're awake right now, or aware. Open up the 5 senses. They mean by seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking. They're the 5 senses. But we're not open to the 5 senses. We're either in the seeing, we're focusing on the seeing, or the hearing. Possibly focus more on the hearing than what you are, the tasting, touching, smelling, the feeling, and the seeing. So we left the others behind, lost sight of them. So he said, it says, be utterly awake with the 5 senses wide open, and be utterly open with unfixated awareness. We're not fixating on the fear or the thinking or the watching, whatever's going on, or the hearing. You're just with them, but you're not fixated on them totally. So you're aware when the other feelings or sensations come into it as well. So you can jump from one to the other quite easily and necessarily as possible. So you're living fully, but you're living attached to the one and isolating yourself in the one sense. You've left the rest. Life has left you behind because life is transient. It's constantly changing. And you're not with it wide open and going with each and every one. You're getting left behind. And that's been most of our life. We're living from the dead image, trying to keep up with life. So we're never fully there, we're never fully happy or contented. We have tastes of it when times we drop the other and catch up, and it's been good. But it doesn't last. Because we go back, don't go back, but we forget about it and relax back into the old habit patterns and lose sight of it. I saw it and it was great, but I lost it. How could you actually lose it? Who's to lose it? Only you're going back into the old belief that there's an I or a me here that is separate and apart from it. But I, as life, I am that living. I am totally with it. Any I that's taken on the sense of the body, mind, the conceptual image, must be with life. And you can say like Christ, I am the way, I am the truth, I am that life, I am that absolute. And what do you need apart from that? You get yourself out of the road as that thinks it knows all and does all, and you are that, and that will take you where you've got to go. And that is expressing, it brought you into existence. You don't realise it, we forget that. And it's lived you every moment since then. And you try to think, even though you seem to have lost sight of it. Do you think it's going to let you down now? It's taking you through all the thick, the thin, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything else. And you're taking on the belief instead of moving on with life, it's taking in that. It won't let you down. It'll bring things to you that never thought was possible if you're open and aware of it. And you're not unaware right now, so you must be aware. What concepts, have a look and see what concepts, ideas or images are blocking it. And you're saying this is all bull, or I don't believe it, it's not true, I can't do that, put it all on. You see, you're shutting yourself off from the sunlight of the Spirit. That's what they tell you in the big book of AA when they call it spiritual. They say we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the Spirit and the insanity of alcohol returns and we drink again. And for us to drink is to die. The sunlight of the Spirit. Call it spiritual. And what's spirit? Essence. Spirit is essence. And what's the Spirit? The opposite of spirit is matter. Matter is material. All these body, mind and patterns are matter. They're material. Now, can spirit ever know matter? It can't, because all it ever is spirit. But it seems to pattern, shape and form into matter, into material. And that's our problem again. We take the matter or the material, seemingly solid, to be real. Matter is just congealed spirit, like blood when it's running and congeals, it seemingly sets. Well, water, when it cools, all things is ice, it seemingly sets. So when spirit becomes material, it's seemingly set. But don't they tell you you are spiritual beings? You are the essence. And the pattern, shape and form seemingly solid or material. And they tell you again it's transient, it's constantly changing. And it's phenomena, the definition of phenomena, it's appearance only. It's not real. What you are is essentially spirit. And spirit is not separate. It's one essence. And you are that. So, that'll do. I've raved on long enough. Take the ravings, do what you like with it. Put Kat on and she'll add to it. She always does, put something new to it because it's coming through fresh and new in her and growing more and more each time she speaks it, like it does with everybody. And a lot of you out there know it and understand it and can contribute to it. You don't have to be listeners all the time. You can contribute to it. And those of you that don't fully understand can ask questions, might cut something up, but some of you don't need any more questions. Instead of keep questioning for the sake of questions, keep coming out, how is it resonating for you? How is it echoing or resonating or energizing through that, vibrating as energy through that body? How much light of intelligence is shining through? How much love or warmth or compassion, which is that light, recognise it and let it shine. So get you.
Hi everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Kat. I live here with Bob since the last 5 years or so, almost. And yes, as he says, the more you put attention on it, the more you express it, the more it renews itself. It is like Bob is using that saying that you can't put anything to the full cup, so pour it out. And that's the safe space to do it here where we are, because nobody's gonna judge you. So if there is anything that comes up for you, anything that you heard strongly in what he was saying, or perhaps heard somewhere else that kind of moves you, or maybe even worries you, or maybe even triggers you that you disagree with, this is the safe place to actually look into it, to speak it up, or perhaps ask questions, or maybe share a little bit of, whatever works, because I can keep talking. That's not a problem. I love talking about it as much as Bob loves talking about it, and many people who actually understands or feels the essence of it. It is impossible to speak directly about it because it is non-dual. It is not to be described in language, which by its nature is duality. Language is duality. Every word is a symbol, and every symbol has its opposite. So we are doing an impossible task here, pointing into something that's beyond the words, beyond the mind. but don't we love it? I mean, it's like poetry, speaking unspeakable. But I don't really need to repeat all the whole thing. I would rather invite people to open up and share, ask questions. And well, if there will be too much silence, we'll kick into again. But just for now, if you would like to unmute yourself and just speak.
Can you get the customers on?
Yes, they on. Everyone's on.
Yeah, that's better.
So please just unmute your speaker, and if anything comes up, I see you, David.
Hello, Kat. Wonderful satsang, Bob. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, David. You shouldn't have any questions left.
I don't. At the moment, you've taken them all away.
Well, what's coming out instead of the question?
Sorry, I missed that.
Coming through instead of the questions. What have you understood or grasped or can point to?
I was just. I don't have any words for it, Bob. Seriously.
This way, there's no words for it. But
Exactly.
Words to express.
Exactly. Yeah. But there might be a few coming in later, so we'll see. No, great. Thanks, guys.
If there are any questions that perhaps you would like to repeat, maybe, because every time you look into it, is the insight comes fresh and new. I mean, we answer the same questions for years and years, and they always different answers. I don't know how it works, but it's always kind of it flies with the mood, with resonance, with all of it. This whole universe.
I guess I can find a question actually now that I'm on the spot a bit, and that being that for most of us we're not going to be able to. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my thoughts together here. But for those that have become awake or well, and sorry. For those here that have become awake, I'd like to address this question, and that is the transition from the illusion or the sleeping aspect that most of us feel we're in to the awakened stage. Does that happen sort of very gradually, and the so-called individual, in inverted commas, do they slip into that in a gradual way, or does it suddenly just happen, or again, is it different for every one of us?
Yeah, well, you want to answer that, Bob?
Well, it's always immediate.
Immediate.
Won't be any other way.
So there's no gradual, sort of a emergence from one or transition from one to the other.
We've all probably practiced it a long time before it started happening. We can't say it didn't help, but you can't say it did help. The final answer is when all of a sudden you see that there was a sort of a hiatus, no thought there, and it was just like you just sort of dropped into it.
So is it something like a sunrise, a sun bursting on the horizon?
That's what I call a dawning.
A dawn.
The sun doesn't come, it's darkness until the light shines over the horizon.
Yeah.
And that's just like, you're racing around going to work in the morning or something like that, and you race out the door, slam the door, get down the road to get on the train, you realise you left the keys behind on the train.
Yep. Something like that. Okay. Very good.
And that you can actually call some sort of a shift, the perception shifts from the identification with the form to kind of more spacious, relaxed sort of seeing, feeling.
Yes.
And the thing is, for a lot of people that were coming here for those last years that I could watch, those sort of shifts would happen every now and then. And every next shift would kind of make it a little bit more familiar, almost as like reconditioning. The moment, you know, they are daydreaming, fantasizing, getting engaged in the drama, and then suddenly, right, yeah, let's just
Yes,
marathon.
yes,
So,
yes.
so every moment of seeing through would make the narrative shorter for the next time, almost as if you would have like a doll made of the salt,
Yes,
seeping into the ocean.
yes, 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 yes,
So,
yes.
but that was for some of the people. For others, it would be an opening in which, you know, like this was the way for Bob. I see there is a question about Bob and Nisargadatta. He'll answer in a sec, I hope. And the same way for me, it was just the little insights that were some kind of accumulated over the years. They still didn't kind of they didn't dissolve completely the sense of self. It used to re-establish itself. The identification would re-establish itself and would be believed, habitually believed again and again. And then in one sort of a really, really deep moment of shift, that identification was seen through, and there was really no believing in it again, because there was no one left to believe in it again. So sometimes it happens in one instantaneous moment, after which the narrative may come back, the thoughts, the dramas, they may come back, but there is no one who actually believes them to be me. There is no me in the narrative anymore. But according to my feeling, there is more of a people who have the moment of opening and then re-establishing of the self, until the point comes where, and it's not even a point because you can't really pinpoint it, but there is a sort of a recognition that even the re-established sense of self or sense of location comes, it is not to be believed. It is just part of the illusion, just the way you see the blue ocean or blue sea, even though you know it is not blue, you still see it. So you still kind of see there is a me, but you don't believe in that me. There is no belief in it. And it's not you disbelieving it. It's just the consciousness doesn't buy into it. But the ultimate truth is overlooking the whole process as something happening in time is erroneous. We answer those questions because I know this is the mind's curiosity. Mind can't help it, but put everything in a context of time.
Yep.
But the ultimate truth is there is no time in it. You either see through it right now or you don't. That's it. I mean, there is a seeing always, and you either see it clearly or you see it through a filter of identification with the me. There is no third option, like over time it will lessen, or, you know, it seems this way. It seems like we are aging over time, or we are learning a new skill over time, and we are getting clearer over time. But the reality is only this moment.
So fundamentally it's black and white. It's either one or the other. But it's a wonderful description as well.
No, it's not really. It's not even black and white. It's really you either see it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
See it through the thin layer of clouds.
Yeah.
Thick layer of clouds.
Yeah, right.
Completely overcast.
Yeah.
Seeing always happen. You either see it through the
Or
eyes
you don't.
of David, or you see it through an eyes of pure consciousness. And David is the belief in conditioning and belief in filters. But the seeing is always there. It's just how thick layer of the clouds filters that seeing.
Thank you very much, guys.
And
can I add to that a little bit, Kat?
Of course, absolutely, always.
Welcome, Donna.
Hi. I was just thinking of a nice analogy for this imagined journey through time. And I'm a little out of breath. I was walking up some steps. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I like the analogy of dreaming.
Oh yeah.
And what you are is the dreaming, that awareness or consciousness is dreaming, that it's David going through a process called awakening, that David's asleep and doesn't know, that this dreaming thinks that it's David that doesn't know and is searching for itself. So you're the dreamt. You're not the
Yep,
dreaming.
yep.
You're actually the dreamt character.
I
And you can dream whatever you want. I mean,
Yeah.
you can dream about journeying. You can dream about awakening. You can, you can be the Hitler. You can be a saint. You can be whatever you want. But it doesn't change the fact that the dreaming is not the character. So nothing actually happened to the dreaming.
Yeah.
Let's say that consciousness is the dreaming. Nothing ever happens to it. Nothing happens to you when you're dreaming, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you wake up and,
Yes,
it's like it never
indeed.
happened.
Yep.
It never happened.
Yep.
So, so another analogy would be energy. A big, huge field of energy where there's seeing and hearing and tasting and touching and all these experiences. But then it takes the form of David that is now can see and hear and taste and touch. And then there's a seer and a scene. But you're that empty space, that huge field. So nothing ever happens to you, but a lot can happen in the dream.
Exactly.
So it can be an apparent journey.
Yeah.
It can seem that way, but it's actually not. So when in that dream, let's say the dream character, the dreaming has the dream character say, "Oh my gosh, I'm being dreamt. I'm not the real."
Yeah. Yeah.
So and then some people stay awake or asleep in the dream. The characters continue to play out as dreaming or asleep through the whole dream and never have that opportunity to say, "Hey, I'm being dreamt." So nobody has dibs on that. Nobody can say how that dreaming's going to transpire for each individual character that's being dreamt.
So it's different for each one of us in a way. The experience, the so-called awakening, or that period where we recognize that we are being dreamt. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, and each snowflake is unique. Everything's fresh and new and spontaneous. Nothing's repeated. So, I could follow Bob's footsteps my whole entire life and my life and do everything Bob does, hear everything Bob does, see everything Bob does. But because of our instruments, these body mind instruments, it's so unique. I mean, imagine the infinite possibilities just in the instruments creation and how it's going to perceive. So absolutely, Dave.
Lovely. Thank you, Donna. Thank you.
Also, Donna, I can't give you permission to record. I don't know why. It's just.
You know what? I'm on my phone. It won't let me record. I am so sorry. My computer's dead. I couldn't get on it, so I forgot to plug it in.
Yeah, I'll send it.
Sorry.
That's okay. David, I would also wanted to ask one thing. It is actually quite helpful because it is a question that is a genuine question. I used to have that question. I used to want the generalized answer, what to expect, how long am I going to wait, and all that stuff. But it really, there is no answer to it, but it's helpful to look where is that question coming from? Because when you see what is the source of a question, you will see that it really is that me. I wanted to happen for me. So I should be looking at the source of where that question is coming from, more than getting the answer to the question itself. Yes.
Finding out who the questioner is.
Exactly. This is the very, very good answer in spirituality, which I don't usually like to throw at people. But it is really to be posed lovingly, like, who is there? Who wants to know? Who is so curious? Because I get where you're coming from. It is the loving care, you care about that little dream figure, that dream character called David, and you want good for him. You want the enlightenment for him. You love him. That's love. That's beautiful. But who is it that wants it?
Yeah. Lovely. Great thought. Thank you. Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Bob. And Donna, thank you.
And there was a question, Bob, on the screen. Let me just get it up again. It says, and this is from Ben. Hi, can you please talk about meeting Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj and what helped clear things up the most? What questions did you ask about the I am?
Well, I heard about him. I didn't want to even go and see him. I didn't know anything about him. Circumstances got me there. I read the book. done a lot of seeking beforehand. But he told me that it wasn't the body and the mind, or the mind, like I'd heard many, many times. At this time, something about the man, I don't know what it was, but you couldn't help but love him. Though people say he was an angry man, but he wasn't angry. I never say him angry. He'd wave his arm about and seem anxious and get earnest in his, by the way he's speaking. He was loving. You couldn't help but love the man. And I saw what he was saying. I wasn't on him, and I said, good. I'll never get caught in the mind again, but I walked out the door and I was.
Mm.
But the difference was I'd seen through it, and it could never be the same. Once you see something is false, you can never believe it again. Now, I go there afterwards. All that discipline I was doing at the ashram, which wasn't his ashram, of course. I was doing all sorts of discipline and done it for a couple of years there. It all dropped off. And I was very sincere and earnest about it. And then here it was. You know, and left me with nothing to do, nothing to be, nowhere to go, nothing to see. I thought, well, I'll be here for the rest of my life. And that was a bit of a shock. I didn't. But didn't things turn around and took me away from him after a while. But every time I'd go to see him after that, you know, he'd get me out on the floor and hammer the hell out of me. There weren't many Westerners there when I went along. They didn't start coming till after I'd left a lot of them, you know. Yeah, and for every question I had, even though I thought it was the most wonderful and beautiful or insight, he'd knock it to the floor, left me with nothing all the time. Zilch, zero.
Yeah, he wouldn't let.
He wouldn't let me focus on or fasting on anything at all. And that became the awareness, you know, and it just grew from there on, and it continues to grow. The seeing is immediate.
Yeah.
I think, like, you know, the clearing away of the rubbish is gradual. That takes a bit of time. You've got to see it again and again. But you can never go back and say you lost it. How could you lose something that was never ever there? You know, that you were never ever there, never had two lives. Who was there to get it or what? When you see there's no person that has it or can lose it, we believe we are this personal separate entity. It's got to find it. But you already are that. That's all there is. It's the person, it's the fiction. Not the message or the message is right. You are that. Everything is that. It's absolute. It's the way. I don't know. It's worked for me anyway, ever since then. And that's over 40 years ago now.
Yeah, 45 years, 1975, met me Sankadata. 1976, when you were leaving.
End of 70, early in 77. 76, maybe.
Yeah, oh.
75, I went over there. Went over there to the Sargadella. That's who looked to land. Looked to land till about March 76. I left in March 77.
And when you left, when he left, Nisargadatta called out the party and made a dinner, and they both cried. They, over that 12 months when they were meeting each other, I wasn't there. I was just born. But yeah, I squeezed out all those beautiful memories of Bob. So not only he wasn't an angry man, he was a loving friend, dear loving friend who, yeah, he was serene and loving. We just found the picture. We were asked to speak on the conference, and I found that picture really a week ago that is there behind us. And I put it down to show Cass when we spoke with Cass last time, and it just stayed there. So we have Nisargadatta with us on the meeting, just in the background. He'll go up on the wall, let him see, overlook the house. Although, of course, it's just an image. Everything's an image.
Not a question here.
Is there? Oh, cool. You didn't. And there is yes from Joe. I have a question. When you're ready, Bob, who or what is that identifies? What identifies? Who identifies? Beautiful question.
The conceptual image, me, mine.
But what identifies with the image?
Huh?
What identifies with the image? What is it that identifies as me? There's only one. There's just light.
Yeah.
There's nothing
Yeah,
else.
life identifies
Yeah.
with me, but it's not, it's not pointing out that it's not, there's no image. It's just a natural cognizing.
Mm.
That identifies as me. It's me is a conceptual image that forms.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, it's like a costume. It's like the.
See, when you're born, you learn words. The first words you learn are I or me. You might learn an I. When you start to reason, there's no reasoning until you're about 2.5 or 3. The capacity of reasoning starts to build. When you start to reason, you can't do much with I or me. Just say I or me. So you add on it, I am Bob, or I am this, or I am that. It's added onto it, and you form a conceptual image of that which you believe is you. And thereafter, that image, which is a reference point or self-centered or the ego, that's a separate, seeming separate entity or individual, but it's not. It's just a concept, a thought up idea. And that belief that it is separate is the problem. Belief's never the actual. That's an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. We haven't reasoned it out, we've accepted it that I am this person from then on, and reinforcing it daily by our schools, parents, society, and everybody else. They reinforce it, everybody around, and we start reinforcing it ourselves until we've got this seemingly solid idea that I am Bob the Australian, this person, I am this person. And you are that, and everything else is some other person. All images which the energy of belief has gone into. And all those thoughts or words are images. And nothing controlling you, as the Saga said, except your own imagination. Break it down to image in and imagine. And you see, we are making these mental images and believing them to be real. And then we're troubled by these images. But look in the mirror. And what do you see in the mirror? You see nothing but reflections or images in the mirror. You can't say they're not there. But go up and try and grab an image out of the mirror, and you can't. So you can't say they are there because you can't grab it. You can't say they're not there because they still appear to be there. So this image we have about ourselves, you can't say it's not there. You can't say it is there. But when you question it and look into it, you see all it is a group of concepts, thoughts, ideas. What were you for the first 2 years of your life when you had no words, when you had no image about yourself? You were living quite well right then from your parents and all this, but you had no concepts about yourself or words or thoughts. So, if there was pleasure or pain or whatever it was going on, you couldn't even say it was pleasure or pain. If you were hungry, you'd cry, and you didn't even know it was crying. It was just another sensation as far as you were concerned until you learnt words to discriminate. And everything from then on is discriminated by the word. It's good, bad, pleasant, painful. They go back, and in the beginning was the word, they say. All the word. It's all words we've acquired or learnt. There'll be no identifier with a separate entity or a separate self without that conceptualising and thinking coming upon us, the reasoning coming on us at the age of 2. When that sense of reasoning, the passive reasoning comes on, we start saying, I am this body, I am this mind.
Yes, so we have another question here, the clarification from Ben. So you identify with our awareness and not the I am, thinking this or doing this. You are the awareness behind the thinking and doing not the illusory self?
Yes.
Behind you.
Awareness is knowing, or the light of intelligence. That's awareness first, you see. You can't say what it is, because you can't describe awareness to me, it's just another thing. But on that awareness, then comes the consciousness. And the consciousness is thoughts or words or feelings or sensations, which we label. But everything appears are expressions of that awareness, pattern, shape, and form. And the awareness needs something to express for it. So it fashions, shapes, and forms this body with all the organs and all the things in. This life essence functioning through this body, it's able to see, expresses other patterns, other patterns, shapes, or forms. It's the light of knowing or seeing through it. In that light of intelligence, everything else appears. And that awareness is light, if you like, or energy. It's just a pure energy or light. Energy is light. Light is life. It's life itself. And you are the life. Take the life out of that body, you've got a corpse. What good is that corpse to you? No good. It's got the eyes, it's got the ears, the heart, the throat, the voice box, all the organs and all the lungs are there. They're not a bit of good without that life thrown to them. The life stops going in. You're not a bit of good. So what must you be? You must be that life itself. And that life is ever fresh, ever new, and spontaneous. And it's flat and shaped and forms the body, utilises while it's necessary, then it discards it like a dirty rag. It throws it away. It's not a bit of good. But the life continues, or the awareness, or the life, the wakefulness, or awareness, has never been. It's spontaneous. It never begins or never ends, but it's continuously there. It's the light, like it's coming. The light can go through many different bulbs in the house, and some are different powers, and some. But if the full light of intelligence energy was functioning through you, it would blow you apart. So you need to transform in yourself, like everything else needs to transform itself. Look at it, what it does to. They can implode galaxies and form volcanoes and form tsunamis and everything like that. And through this little body, it needs to transform it. It needs the body-mind to express through, to break it down. There's still one energy expressing through everything, pattern, shape, form. You can only be that. That is what you are. And when we put the limitations on it ourselves in the belief we are separate and take on this idea we have a personal life or a separate life, no wonder we suffer. No wonder there's like psychological suffering going on, because we've broken it down into the belief, I am the body, I am the mind, I am this person, I am the life. And Christ said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. People thought he was saying that I am was himself. He's not talking about the I am as the person. He's talking about I am as a sense of presence. That sense of presence is going through you now. How would you express it to somebody? You say, I am Bob, or I am Bill, or I am David, or I am Chris. So that sense of presence has been broken down into a concept or a word, but it's still the sense of presence. Now that's spontaneous. That's eternal. You think eternity has a beginning and an end. So we break it down to some imagined or conceptualized Big Bang. Anyone around when the Big Bang happened can say it was right, it was true. You can't, you know. But so anything that has a beginning must have an ending to it. This believed in birth has a beginning. It'll have an end to it. But you, as the life that's expressing through it, has no beginning and no end. Eternity is beginningless and endless. And when you say you're beginning right now, it's spontaneous. When are you ending? Grab hold of now if you can and see. What duration is now got? As you're saying now, it's already ending. And it's beginning and it's ending. It's got no beginning and no ending. It's just spontaneous, emanating, expressing. And you can't be anything other than that.
Yeah, so you used few words: the presence, the awareness, the sense of presence, the awareness, the life, the I am, the being. They all signify the same thing. There's no separate. There's being, life. They all the same pointer.
And that's why we miss the other. There's so many things which we put different words on. You know, I am. What's another one? Oh.
Awareness, stillness, Satchitananda, being, omnipresence, omnipotence, silence, stillness, Brahman, Atman, Tathagata Garbha. There's just so many ways they try to point. And the moment we put word on it, it kind of stops being a subjectivity, which is wrong. It is a subjectivity. The sense of presence that I am is here now. It is what I am. It is not it. It is I. It's impossible.
I have a little joke that I posted on my Facebook page. It said, if God is invisible and we are made in God's image, then why aren't we invisible?
There you go.
I thought it, and so, you know,
You are
I think that's, what's that?
you
I
are
got it.
visible. As the essence of the awareness, show me awareness. You are invisible.
Yeah, you can't, I mean, that's the whole point. You can't see love, and you can't see your breath, and you can't see energy, and you can't see this awareness. With these eyes, you'll never see them physically because you are those things. So you can't see it because you are it, and it's animating through this body. So whatever is perceived is not the perceiving.
Yeah.
The light shining.
So yes, in a sense, we are invisible. It's qualityless. It's not a thing. You know, love, that feeling of love is not a thing. You can't grasp it. You can't hold on to it. You can't say it's mine. It comes and, you know, I mean, the person wants to claim it so badly, but it's, you can't deny it's there though. Just like the air, you know, you could see it by its expressions.
Yeah.
You know, blowing through the trees, and you can feel it on your skin, but you can't see it with the eyes, but you can't say it's not there either. So just wanted to add that.
That's as many say you can't say it is, can't say it is.
Yeah.
Invisible in the night. It is no thing. So it's the two ends of the one stick. It's supposed to either is or is not. You can't say it is, you can't say it's not.
Yeah, and as Bob said beautifully, it needs a pattern to express through. So it gives itself that pattern of the body. It creates itself. It dreams itself. The body, the face, the eyes, the ears, because otherwise it is blind and deaf, and dumb. It's just, it needs the form. It needs the instrument to play the music. It needs the instrument that gives it an illusion of a possibility to grasp its own reflection, to be able to see that reflection, because everything is it, which is I. Everything is what I am. So this screen, Bob, this world around is a reflection of my infinite creative capacity as that power, as that life, which creates and expresses itself as the forms, which are all empty. The nature of it is all empty. None of it can be separated from the environment. Not one thing can stand on its own.
Donna was saying the same thing, you're saying the same thing, I'm saying the same thing. We're using different words.
That's it, yeah. 1,000 pointers, we can talk for hours and hours. It's always pointing to the same. And it's always pointing at it. It can't really touch it with words. Singularity and subjectivity. This is a subject, the subject of experiencing. It is experiencing. It is expressing right here, right now. It is not it doing it through something, because it does express as the body also. So it, which is me, is the body as well. Is on one hand, it can't be what it sees, so it is not the body because it sees the body, but really it is, because it is everything. So the body is included, nothing's excluded. Everything which is no thing. Nothing can stand on its own. Nature of everything is empty. Everything's empty. So that emptiness is form. It expresses as form. Nothing's not it. Like
I think it's funny using thoughts and words, because thoughts and words are just pointers. They're not really the truth. They're just a futile attempt to explain what is, because it would be like if all there was this body, my body, mind, instrument, and somebody said, "Who are you?" and I pointed here. That's just a tiny, tiny piece of the whole.
Yeah.
Is that me right here, or is this me, or is this me, or is this finger me? What part is it? So words are just pointers, because you're already, the finger that's pointing is you too. That is the wholeness. So we're trying to use words which are an expression of the wholeness to explain the wholeness when you're already that. So it's like, you know, trying to step away from yourself. Okay. I want somebody to just take one step away from who you are. And it's impossible, because you're already everything. So you can't step outside of yourself. You can't point to yourself, because the pointing is yourself too. And it's only pointing to you know, just the tiniest little peace that it seems to be appearing. So all it can't, nobody's actually able to tell the whole truth, because all concepts are just pointers. They're not the actuals, and they're not something that you can say, got it, this is it. But what they're pointing to, you know, they're contained in everything. It's part of that expression. So it's impossible to really talk about it, but you can point to it.
Can I just add, perhaps one of the greatest English jnanis of our last 500 years was William Shakespeare. He attempted to put pointers in plays all the way through his works. And one that comes to mind in particular is the role of Bottom in Midsummer Night's Dream. Bottom was a weaver by trade, and his head was turned into a donkey on frequent occasions by Puck. And the weaver, in a sense, is a metaphor for the discursive activity of mind. And the role that Puck plays is the role of the deluding power of Atman, the deluding power of this supreme self. It plays in its own creation. And Shakespeare does this rather nicely in the role that he gives to Bottom. He turns his head into that of an ass. So when Puck turns Bottom's head into that of an ass, he's really showing that his true power lies outside the realm of Bottom's capacity to handle or understand it. And it's a bit like that with the rest of the creation, that the Supreme Absolute plays with it. And it's just its deluding power. It's its game. It's the one in executive charge of the whole game. And it behoves us to wake up and become aware of what's going on so we can enjoy the play at large. And that's all it is, just a play.
Mm. Yeah, Leela, they call it divine game. Divine game. Yeah.
I have another quote that I like. It's God is not playing with you. God is playing as you.
As you, yeah.
Yeah.
We're all characters in the great play.
Mm.
But we're all the one essence, the one incorporeal essence, appearing as many.
Yeah. Yeah, just when you dream at night, and then the dream is furnished with all sorts of situations, places, people, and all those appear out of the thin air of the flashing neurons somewhere in the brain, and they come into existence, and they engage, and they argue, and they whatever fly, they make love, whatever they do, and then shift happens. And the dream ends and it disappears. And then this dream comes about.
Being expressed in myriads and myriads of different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, as you said, Bob, we're not creating anything. We're just rediscovering what we already are. And because it's already everything, you can't create it. And my sense is that it's simply understanding, a misunderstanding that we're something that we're not. So in a sense, it's just deconstructing this thought process that we have about who we are, and reconstructing it. And then, like Ramana said, take both concepts, the ones of what you thought you were and the ones that are pointing to what you are, and then throw them both away. And then there's just what you are. Don't need the concepts anymore. But for me, that's all we can really do in these talks, is just try and deconstruct the ideas of what we think we are.
That's the process of renunciation, isn't it? It's step by Tyaga, as it's known in Sanskrit. Process of deconstructing attachment, one by one, recognizing what is false. And then the truth sets us free.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the seriousness goes out of it, the belief goes out of it, and life becomes light. And now you can really enjoy the play, because you know there is nothing You can't, what you are can't be touched, can't be harmed. The body can be destroyed, but you are not the body. And it doesn't mean you're not going to be defending and protecting. The body is equipped in that mechanism, survival strategies, and it will look after itself. But when you're not attached, you're not going to be crying over the fact of aging. It is all light. It is all kind of humorous in a way, because yes, so what? Everything changes, and everything has its own beauty. Every age, every wrinkle, every adversity has its own beauty, and it is going to change. Nothing's going to last, so nothing's serious. Nothing's really threatening.
One thing that Ramana Maharshi counsels is that when we have these understandings that set us free, we need to abide in the realizations that we've had. So this abidance is achieved through, according to Ramana Maharshi, and it's easily found in experience, to just connect with stillness and silence. Because that is the substrate behind all activity and movement in the creation, behind all vibration, is the substrate of silence.
Yeah.
And it's connecting with that silence on an ongoing basis as best as we can through practice, that we come to stand alone and not be dependent on the wiles and the ways of the activities in the creation, so that we're not affected by pleasure and misery alike. We stand aloof from it because we are not that. We are, in fact, stillness. And it's easy to connect with by, as Bob mentioned earlier in the talk, just being still. Be still and know that I am.
Yeah. And he also said, Joanna asked the question, who am I? And when you ask that question, ask yourself, who's questioning? And you'll realise I am. So I am the questioner. And the question is the thought I am. And when you ask who's asking the question, that's the question is the thought. So the question and thought are one and the same thing. Questioner is the question, they cancel each other out. Where does that leave you? Stillness. So.
Yeah. Another way of putting it perhaps is that whatever you see or whatever can be seen, you can't be that. So if you're watching the mind, for example, the comings and the goings of concepts, thoughts, words, whatever happens to be present in mind, and mind is perhaps a concept itself. It's a collection or a set of thoughts. So using that as a definition, if we observe whatever takes place in the mind, vis-a-vis all these concepts and thoughts, then we can't be those. So we just keep going back and back and back, watching and looking. And whilst we can see something, we know that we are not that, and that is not who we are. Eventually, we come to see the observer, not in a sense of having a form or a shape or a name, but in terms of the source of the process of observation. And behind that again, we then see the light of the observer.
Observing.
Observing, yes. So there is no object, no subject.
And that's all. Thinking, seeing, tasting, touching. So the ing is
just in
the immediacy.
Yes.
And as soon as I think, you formed a subject. And the subject is this conceptual image you have about yourself.
Yes, that's right.
And the thought has become the object. Can there be a thinker without thinking? There can't be. Can there be the thought without thinking? There can't be. Can there be a seer without seeing? Or an experience without experience? Or the observer without observing? So they're all, the ing on it is something that gives them a life essence of functioning. All appearing on that screen, which for want of a better term, we use awareness. Now awareness is like the basic screen, and the first thing that appears on it is consciousness. And consciousness And they said, all consciousness is existence, utterly or totally aware that it exists. So without the awareness, there couldn't be the consciousness. They're one and the same thing. The assembly broken down, and everything is broken down from there. So one essence, patterning, shaping, forming, experiencing, expressing as everything and as the no thing.
You know, Bob, my experience is that the emptiness that Ramana was pointing to is not empty. It's no thing. It's not a thing, because there's always going to be the empty space of awareness, but there's always that energy, that life moving and vibrating. So they're not separate from each other, but they're not things either. They appear as apparent things, but they're not. There's no thing, because I don't feel that emptiness is empty at all. It's just not a thing.
And all this manifestation is made up of things.
Mm-hmm.
All our things before we put the label, the discriminating label on. Everything is the no thing. No thing is the everything. Emptiness is form. The form is nothing other than the emptiness.
And I think a lot of what Ramana says is more of a description than the prescription, because he's stating what is. So it's not that you have to be silent, because basically what's happening is silent listening or stillness moving. It's basically a description of what is, and that recognition will also arise of what is, but not by your doing. So all the effort in the world that I did, I mean, by merit alone, with all the books I've read and the meditations and satsangs and traveling and just the thousands and thousands of hours I've put into searching, by merit alone, I should have, that recognition years ago, just by my desire and everything. But it wasn't me that was doing it. It was just the way that it was expressing and through this body-mind instrument. And then these clarities started coming, these understandings started arising. But the point is that there wasn't a person doing it. It's basically energy and that life essence expressing as this body-mind that was having these understandings. But there was no me doing it, because if it was me doing it, I would have awakened years ago. I wouldn't have gone through all that suffering. It's like, what was I waiting for? Oh, you have to suffer some more, you're not worthy. But that wasn't the case. The recognition is that it rises and expresses as you, and you're not doing it.
And when you said what is, that's exactly it. It is. Nothing other than the isness.
Right.
What they do, I feel, all those people who actually point that Ramana is inspiring to focus on the silence. Nisargadatta is inspiring to focus on the sense of I am. Bob is inspiring in 1,000 different ways, always bringing back to relax out of the distraction, relax out of that mental drama, of that chatter in the head, back into the natural state, as in nature, that what is, without believing any of the illusory, crazy stories about future and past and context and all that situations that we entertain ourselves. Go back to, and this is not an instruction. This is not what you have to do. You have to focus on silence. Oh, I am. No, there is no you to do anything. It really is only the one. It's always that self to self or awareness to awareness. It's always the one, the life playing hide and seek and inspiring itself. Bob speaking only to itself. He says, I'm not speaking to any body or any mind, but to the I am which I am, that same I am which is in everyone. So it inspires itself, it plays with itself, it winks at itself, it kisses itself through the insights, through the pointers. It's all fun. Ultimately, if it wouldn't lose itself in the dream of identification, it couldn't find itself, and then there would be no awakening possible. So it is all brilliantly played out. It is a brilliant stage in which the suffering is necessary, the pain is necessary to understand pleasure, the day is necessary to see the night, the happiness is necessary. All of it has its place. You want to say something? No?
Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh no, yeah, sure, yeah. You always. If I see he wants to say something, I kind of want to stop everyone because we want him.
No, this is very well, I think. Said enough anyway to me.
I kind of feel that you were taking a breath. So.
Yeah, good to hear from you. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, we have David commented in the chat box. That is wonderful satsang. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah,
Yeah, so be inspired. Be inspired by any pointer that resonates, any word, be it silence, be it awareness, any of the words that touches your heart. It is that one life, that one energy, one essence, touching itself in the heart, to dance, to play, to find itself, to sprinkle us as that lightness, and the light in a form of a brightness and in the form of weightlessness, both brightness and weightlessness. That's the enlightenment. We undarken ourselves and unheavy ourselves with the burden of concepts and distractions and wrong beliefs, which we just build the cage of those conceptual beliefs and load ourselves down with ideas, and life goes on, and it's just so close, and it's always available, it's always here, it's always to be acknowledged in a way, recognized in a way, because that energy is a source and an essence of absolutely everything. So everything literally could point you out to the source of it, which is that emptiness playing to and vibrating into forms.
yeah, well, time's caught up with us. Good to hear you tonight, James. Very good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful.
And you're all on fire tonight. Well, fire is another term for energy or light. So you're full of that whole fire and light. Good.
Well, there's no one here. It comes when it comes.
Yeah.
Well,
It's all,
be the fire.
it's all,
Mm.
it's all consciousness speaking to consciousness about consciousness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's nothing else.
Correct.
Or the dreaming.
Yeah. And I would still like to appreciate and acknowledge everyone who is here with us, because if you were not with us, we would probably, wouldn't be talking about it. It's
Yeah.
joyous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Donna, Kat. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Love you all. Bye.
Yeah.